I'm a somatic sex therapist. What does that mean? What is somatic sex therapy? So therapy, in the narrow sense, is concerned with healing. But from my perspective, it's concerned also with wholeness and with identifying your own sexual nature and inhabiting that nature. So being comfortable in your own skin, understanding who you are, understanding your desires. So that whole package. Somatic means that I work through the body, not the body in the way that a doctor would work through the body as something mechanical, and not in the way that we often think of the body, that some sort of appendage that's basically there to do what our mind wants, but the body as intrinsically us, the seat of our aliveness, our feelingness, our imagination, everything. So one of the things which I do, it's not the only thing I do, but one of the things which I do is bodywork. Sometimes practitioners might call that bodywork tantric massage. Sometimes I use that term because it often can be very useful, but oftentimes I don't. And the reason why I don't is because there's a bundle of assumptions wrapped up in the term. And that assumption is basically that what tantric massage or massage from a practitioner like myself is about is arousal. And what arousal is about is the path to orgasm. And I don't think that is helpful because I think it's very restrictive and it keeps us within a performative idea of sexuality, what we should be feeling, what we should be doing, what the other person should be feeling, which is terribly damaging to our happiness and the possibility of meaningful connection at a deep level with other people. So from my perspective, the bodywork which I do with you has a number of different functions. The first is to deal with this widespread issue that we have of disembodiment. So very often people don't feel very much pleasure in their body. They're often in a habitually stressed state. Their body is not the home of their pleasure. There isn't a sense of relaxed, pleasurable sensation associated with the body. And touch, in agreed and boundaried terms which you're in control of, is a way of re-embodying us. So it's a way of taking the body out of a state of habitual vigilance. What's going to happen next? What am I supposed to be feeling? What does this other person intend? All of that sort of thing, which is a terrible obstacle for us, and releases us into a state of relaxed, present, focused pleasure. And from that position, we can start to explore our sexuality. Again, from my perspective, it seems to me that, as it were, we have two sexual natures, one of which we recognize and one of which we don't. The one that we recognize is the usual idea that we have of arousal, so pleasurable arousal, connection, and so on. Now, some people find arousal quite problematic. because they're very caught up both in a habitual state of stress, but also with a whole load of ideas about what they should be experiencing. So my work releases you from that and enables you to feel present, focused, sensual and sexual pleasure without an anxiety about achieving an orgasmic state or something similar. And that's very important, I think, because very often what happens is that in sexuality we go from a stressful normal state to a kind of stressful sexual state. So that's why we think of orgasm as being the release of tension and so on. But it's kind of forced. So some of my work is going to bring out that sense of relaxed sexual pleasure, which may well be missing for you. But another aspect of the work, from my perspective, is that once you can get into a state of pleasurable relaxation, your arousal can go in one of two directions. It can go towards orgasm, but it can also go towards what I've called the activation of the erotic body. And what I mean by that is that very often when we reach a particular level of arousal, as it were, the energy can go in a specifically orgasmic genital direction, but it can also go in a much more holistic direction. So there's an alternative state that we can experience through arousal, which I've called the erotic body, where people will experience, in a very relaxed state, visions, a sense of oneness, a sense of connection, a sense of their bodies extending beyond the boundary of the physical body, and so on. And often people who are troubled by not fitting within our society's performative ideas of sexuality, often those people are very gifted in that area of the erotic body, and through that path can also integrate the more, as it were, conventional ideas of sexuality, of arousal and orgasm and so on. So that's my perspective about my work insofar as bodywork is concerned. It's not for everybody, but if what I'm saying here makes some sense, I'd urge you to contact me. We can have a call and we can see if we're a good fit.